seem to match.
Quantum realm. That's when this crazy creepy ghost who like walks through walls and stuff. So believe that in your hour of need, you would turn to us.
Not me. It's both of you.
And you go low, I'll go high.
What if the biggest mission of all happened at the smallest scale? Welcome back to Cinema Reviews. Today we dive into Ant Man and the Wasp 2018, a fast, funny, and action packed adventure where shrinking down only makes the danger bigger. Get ready for quantum chaos, unexpected twists, and a ride that proves size really doesn't matter. Ant-Man and the Wasp is a 2018 American superhero film based on Marvel Comics characters Scott Lang, Ant-Man and Hope Van Dyne Wasp, produced by Marvel Studios and distributed by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures. It served as the sequel to Ant-Man 2015 and the 20th installment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe MCU. Directed by Peyton Reed, the film was written by the team of Cheers MC Kina and the Eric Sommers, along with Paul Rudd, Andrew Barrier, and Gabriel Ferrier. It stars Paul Rudd as Scott Lang and Evangeline Lilly as Hope Van Dyne, alongside Michael Peña, Walton Goggins, Hannah, Johan Kamen, David Dastmalchina, Tip T.I. Harris, Judy Greer, Bobby Cannavale, Randall Park, Abby Redder Fortson, Mitchell Pfeffer, Lawrence Fishburne, and Mitchell Douglas. The story follows Scott and Hope as they team up with Hank Pym to rescue Janet Van Dyne from the mysterious quantum realm. Plans for a sequel began soon after the release of the first Ant-Man film. Ant-Man and the Wasp was officially announced in October 2015 with both Rudd and Lilly confirmed to return. The following month, Peyton Reed was also officially brought back to direct. Having joined the original film late in production, Reed was eager to shape this sequel from the ground up. He was officially enthusiastic about finally bringing Hope Van Dyne fully into the spotlight as the Wasp and made it a priority to present her and Scott Lang as equal heroes. Principal photography took place from August to November 2017 at Pinewood Atlanta Studio in Fayette County, Georgia, as well as across Metro Atlanta, San Francisco, Savannah, Georgia, and Hawaii. The film had its world premiere in Hollywood, Los Angeles, on June 25, 2018, before being released in the United States on July 6, 2018, as part of Phase 3 of the MCU. Ant-Man and the Wasp was both a critical and box office success, earning praise for its cast performances, especially those of Rudd and Lilly, along with its humor, charm, and lighter tone. It grossed over $622 millions worldwide and was followed by a third installment, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which was released in February 2023, 2 years after Scott Lang is placed under house arrest for violating the Scovia Accords through his with installment with Avengers. Hank Pym and his daughter Hope Van Dyne briefly succeed in opening a tunnel to the quantum realm, and they believe Hank's wife Janet Van Dyne may still be alive there after shrinking to a subatomic level back in 1987. Because Scott had previously entered the quantum realm, he unknowingly formed a quantum connection with Janet and begins receiving what appeared to be a message from her. With only a few days left before his house arrest ends, Scott contacts Hank about Janet despite the tension between them, caused by Scott's action with the Avengers. Hope and Hank quickly bring Scott in, leaving behind a giant ant wearing his ankle monitor to fool FBI agent Jimmy Woo. Convince Janet is alive. The trio begins working on a stable quantum tunnel so they can travel into the quantum realm and rescue her. To complete it, they attempt to purchase a crucial component from back market dealer Sony Birch, but he realized the value of Hank technology and betrays them. Wearing the Wasp suit, Hope fight Birch and his men, but they are suddenly attacked by a masked woman suffering from quantum instability. Scott joins the fight, but the mysterious ghost escapes with Hank portable lab, now shrunk to the size of the suitcase. Desperate to track the lab, Hank reluctantly takes Scott and hope to see his estranged former partner, Bill Foster, who helped them locate it. Once they find the lab, the masked woman captures them and reveals herself as Ava Star. Ava explained that her father, Elias, another former associate of Hank's, died along with her mother during an experiment that left her body in a dangerously unstable state. Bill then revealed that Ava is in constant pain and slowly dying, and they plan to use Janet quantum energy to save her. Believing the process will kill Janet, refuses and manages to escape with Scott, Hope, and the lab. After successfully opening a more stable tunnel, the group is able to communicate with Janet, who provided her exact location, but warned that they have only 2 hours before the quantum realms. Shifting nature traps them apart for a century. Meanwhile, Sunny Burch uses truth serum on Scott's business partners Lois Davey and Currat to learn where the team is hiding. Then tips of the FBI. Lois manages to warn Scott just in time, allowing him to rush home before Jimmy Woo discovers he has broken house arrest. However, Hope and Hank are arrested by the FBI, leaving Ava free to take the lab. Scott soon help Hank and Hope escape custody, and together they cover the lab. But Scott and Hope keep Ava occupied. Hank enters the quantum realm and finally find Janet alive. At the same time, Scott and Hope are forced to deal with Sonny Birch and this man, leading to a chaotic chase through San Francisco. Ava regains control of the lab and begins forcibly draining Janet energy. But Lois, Davy, and Currat step in and take down Birch and his crew, giving Scott and Hope the chance to stop Ava. Hank and Janet safely return from the quantum realm. The Janet willingly shares some of her energy with Ava, temporarily stabilizing her condition. Scott gets back home just in time for a still suspicious Jimmy Woo to officially end his house arrest. Ava and Bill go into hiding while Birch and his men are arrested and end up confessing after being dosed with Birch on truth serum. In the mid-credit scenes, Hank, Hope, and Janet send Scott back into the quantum realm to collect quantum energy meant to help Ava stay stable. But before they can pull him back, all three suddenly turn to dust, leaving Scott stranded. Ant Man and the Wasp 2018, a comprehensive deep dive into the film casting. Introduction. A Marvel ensembles like no others. When Marvel Studios announced Ant-Man and the Wasp as the 20th entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe (MCU, fans immediately began speculating about which new faces would join the beloved ensemble from the original 2015 Ant-Man, released on July 6, 2018 in the United States and July 4 internationally. The film arrived as the deliberate tunnel counterpoint to the universe shattering grimness of Avengers Infinity War, which had debuted just months earlier. Director Peyton returning at the outside, Marvel announced the return Bobby Cannavale and Abby Rudyard Fortson as Paxton and Cassie Lang, respectively, alongside confirmation that Jiris M. Sikina and Eric Sommer had contributed to the screenplay. This early casting reaffirmation reinforced continuity and family dynamics central to Scott Lang Eric. Key sets such as Lab and Quantum Tunnel drew inspiration from the 1960s television series The Time Tunnel, resulting in the largest physical set constructed for any MCU film to date, a decision Reed humorously noted as somewhat counterintuitive given the shrinking theme. The sequence featuring Janet Van Devon communicating through Lang took cues from the 1984 comedy All of Me, where one character possesses another. The production ultimately allowed her to improvise freely rather than mirroring superior performance, first enhancing spontaneity and comedic timing. Slayer Chamber incorporated fractional lenses for distinctive concentric circle patterns, serving both practical storytelling purpose and aesthetic differentiation. These designs element evoked desperations and yearning for family and stability, adding emotional layers to the antagonist environment. Flashback scenes with Douglas and Pfeiffer depicting 1980s era Pym and Van Dyne were filmed but later excised by Reed, who prioritized present day focus to maintain narrative moments. Filming extended across metro Atlanta, utilizing locations like the Atlanta International School, Midtown, and Buckhead districts, Samuel M. Inman Middle School in Virginia Highland, Emory University, and the Atlanta Motor Speedway in Hampton, Georgia. Additional work occurred in Francisco in September 2018, crucial for authentic cityscape integration in the third act chase, followed by Savannah, Georgia in late October and Hawaii. Production officially wrapped in November 19, 2017 after an intensive 4 month schedule that balanced practical effect with digital augmentation. The Atlanta heavy shoot allowed for controlled studio work on quantum elements, while San Francisco provided real world scales reference for macro photography sequence. Expanded elaboration on filming. The 4 month principal photography period represented a logistical triumph, blending large scale studio construction with location authenticity to realize the film dull scale action. The quantum tunnel sets, massive physical build enable practical lighting and actor interaction, minimizing reliance on green screen work and preserving Reed's preference for tangible comedy. Improvisational freedom in possession scene underscored the cast chemistry, particularly rude comedic instincts with infused humor into quantum realm interactions. Location choices in Atlanta offer tax incentive and versatile backlots, while San Francisco's Lombard Street sequences demanded precious coordination for vehicles, stunts, and size shifting gags. The decision to cut 1980s flashbacks streamlined post production and focused audience attention on current stakes, avoiding potential tunnel whiplash between eras. Overall, filming emphasized on particularly innovation and ensemble performances established a playful yet technically rigorous tone that distinguished Ant-Man and the Wasp from more effect-driven MCU entires. Post-production Post-production commenced immediately after wrap in late November 2017. Lilly revealed that the character would attempt quantum realm entry, potentially unlocking multiverse possibilities for future MCU stories. Patrick Burlick and Eric Pearson provided uncredited script contribution ahead of reshoots. The film incorporated a clip from Animal House 1978, inspired by Reed quantum science discussions Reed deliberately kept the runtime under 2 hours to serve as a lighter counterpoint to the epic Avengers. Infinity War describing is an action comedy that should not overstay its welcome. Editors Dan Lebentel and Craig Wood shaped the final cut, while the main credit sequence, crafted by Elastic as a tabletop miniature version of the action, offered a creative, stylized recap and alternative concepts, involved a Fox 1950s Godzilla style behind the scene documentary, ultimately abandoned in favor of the miniature aesthetics. Visual effects were handled by a consortium of studios. DNEG over 500 shoots, including ghost effect, the third act chase, and final fight. Scanline VFX Method Studios, Luma Pictures, Lola F VFX Industrial Light and Magic Cineastia, Rise FX, Rudio FX, Crafty Epis, Perception, NYC, Digital Domain, and the third floor. DNEG's macro photography approach evolved from Ant-Man's addressing depth of field challenges with Frazier lens footage and digital reprojection. The San Francisco set chase, primarily shot in Atlanta, require extensive environment creation. 130 unique digital environments spotted by Clear Angels millimeter accurate LiDAR survey of Lombard Street. City row conversion accommodate both 2.39 ratio 1 and max 1.19 ratio 1, with the 1 max frame serving as the VFX base. Lola VFX managed de-aging for Douglas Pfeiffer and Lawrence Fishburne's referencing period-specific appearance. Douglas in Wall Street Pfeiffer and Lady Hawk and leveraging Pfeiffer natural aging gracefully for efficient result. Expanded elaboration on post-production. Post-production defined the film identity as a brisk, character-focused entry with editing decision prioritizing pace and humor. Thus, the sub 2 hours mended reflected strategic MCU scheduling, positioning Ant-Man and the Wasp as accessible entertainment and aimed larger crossover. Visual effects team coordinate cross vendors to ensure seamless integration of practical and digital elements, particularly ghost phasing abilities and size shifting chase. DNEGS environment work transformed Atlanta footage into convincing San Francisco locales, preserving geographic occurrence down to street level detail. The aging process maintained actor occur likeness while evoking 1980s authenticity, enhancing flashback emotional weight without disrupting flow. The credit sequence maintains style reinforced thematic consistency, turning action into playful spectacle. Rashoot and uncredited rewriters allowed fine tuning of multiverse teas and character arcs, culminating in a polished product that balanced spectacle with intimacy. These efforts collectively elevated technical execution, ensuring the film delivered innovative visual without sacrificing comedic timing. Music in June 2017, Reed confirmed Christoph Beck's return as composer, reprising his Ant Man main theme and introducing a new high energy theme for the Wasp to reflect her confidence and abilities. Beck strategically favored the Wasp theme in sense selection to infuse freshness and progression, avoid a simple retreat. Hollywood Records and Marvel Music released the soundtrack album digitally on July 6, 2018, coinciding with the film theatrical opening. Beck's score blended or- orchest- orchestral elements with electronic undertones, enhancing both intimate character movements and large-scale action. With the Wasp theme prominence, stabilize her elevated heroic status, expanded elaboration on music. Beck compositional approach represented expanded elaboration on music. Beck's compositional approach represented deliberate emotional evolution, building on established motifs while carving Sonic's identity for the Wasp. The high energy theme underscored her agency, aligning with Reed's vision of balanced partnership. Track selection throughout the film created dynamic contrast, quieter thematic underscoring during quantum interaction. Underscoring during quantum interaction versus propulsive cues in chassis, heightening emotional and comedic beats. The digital release timing maximized synergy with theatrical marketing, allowing fans immediate access to the auditory companions. Overall, the score contributed to the film's lighter tone, reinforcing its role as an MCU palette cleaner cleanser through memorable character-specific melodies that encode the playful spirit of size-shifting antics. Release theatrical Ant-Man and the Wasp premiered at the EI Capitan Theater in Hollywood, Los Angeles on June 25, 2018, followed by a wide US release on July 6, 2018 across 4,206 theaters, 3,000 in 3D, 403 IMAX, over 660 premium large format, and over 220 D-Box 4DX as part of MCU Phase 3. The film capitalized on post-Infinity War anticipation. The UK release, originally set for June 29, 2018, was delayed in November 2017 to August 3 to avoid FIFA World Cup competition. Analysts noted risk of audience distraction during the tournaments, compounded by high anticipations following Infinity War. Disney's simultaneous delay of Incredible 2 fueled speculation of internal scheduling strategy. A change origin petition sought to advance the UK date, mirroring prior MCU adjustments. Expanded elaboration on theatrical release. The premiere and wide release strategy maximized global buzz with IMAX and premium formats, showcasing VFX spectacular The UK delay, while pragmatic for avoiding sports overlap, sparked fan engagement via petitions, highlighting audience investment. Positioning within Phase 3 ensured narrative relevance with quantum teas linking to broader MCU arcs. Marketing emphasized the Wasp's promises, aligning with Reed's publicity push and broadening appeal. Home media: the film was released digitally on October 16, 2018 by Walt Disney Studios. Home entertainment extras included behind the scene featurettes, Reed's introduction, deleted scenes, and gag reels. Digital versions added concept art insight and a Fox commercial for online close-up Magic University. The IMAX enhanced version became available on Disney on November 12, 2021. Expanded elaboration on home media. Home media release extended accessibility with bonus features, deepening appreciation of production choices. Gag reels captured cast camera rear, while deleted scenes offered alternate narrative exploration. The Disney Plus IMAX rollout broadened home viewing immersion, ensuring long term engagement with the film. Technical achievement reception: box office. Ant-Man and the Wasp grossed $216.6 million domestically and $406 million internationally, totaling $622.7 million worldwide. Deadline: Hollywood projected a net profit of approximately $100 million. It ranked as 2018 11th highest grossing film. Opening day earnings reached $33.8 million, including $11.5 million previews, with a $75.8 million weekend, a 33% increase over the first film debut. Subsequent weekends saw $28.8 million second place and $16.1 million on fourth place, and continued top 10 placements through the sixth weekend. Internationally, it opened to $85 million across 41 markets, number one in most, with standout South Korea $20.9 million and strongholds in Australia, Hong Kong, and other. Later opening in France, Germany, the UK, Italy, China, $68 million, fourth best MCU China opening, and Japan reinforced movement. Largest markets include China $117.5 million, South Korea $42.4 million, and the UK $21.5 million. Expanded elaboration on box office: the improved domestic opening reflected heightened MCU interest post Civil War and Infinity War setup. International performance demonstrated global appeal, particularly in Asia, where quantum elements resonated. Profit estimates underscored efficient production relative to returns, affirming the film's values as a mid-tier MCU entry. Weekend hold indicates strong word of mouth, sustaining performance amid summer competition. Critical response: critics largely praised Ant-Man and the Wasp for its lighter tone and cast chemistry. Rotten Tomatoes reported 87% approval, average 7 out of 10 from 446 reviews, with consensus highlighting Rudd and Lily Chersima as a much needed MCU palette cleanser. Metrics scored uh, 70 out of 100, generally favorable from the 56 critics. Cinema scored audience awarded A, down from the first film A. Peter Travers, Rolling Stones gave 3 out of 4 stars, lauding charm over excess. Richard Roper, Chiago Sun. Time celebrated the lightweight tunes, post Infinity War, and inventive effects. Hmm. Manhola Dargis, the New York Times called it fast, bright, and breezy, praising Reed and the ensemble. Simon Abrams, RogerEbert.com, deemed it good enough and satisfying on Galbram. Variety found it faster and funnier than the original. Anne Hornady, Washington Post, noted enjoyable filler despite plot critique. Tabor Boston Globe labeled it the ideal summer air conditioning movies. Stephen Zchick Time acknowledged fun movement but critiqued effects heavy sequence and perceived box checking for gender equality, expanded elaboration on critical response, the high Rotten Tomato acclaim for balancing humor and action. Audience scores affirmed accessibility, though slight cinema score dip suggested varied expectations post Infinity War. Positive notices from Travers, Rupert, and Dargis emphasized tonal success, while nuanced critiques from Hornady and Zicharek addressed narrative density and representations. Overall reception solidified the film as a charming, efficient sequel that enhanced the Ant-Man franchise legacy. Review 1. Starting Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, Mitchell, Douglas, Hannah, Johan Kamen, Michael Peña, Walton, Joggins, Abby Rudder, Fortson, Bobby Cannavale, T.I. David, Dest Melchian, Divian, Ledva, Lorenzi Fishburner, Judy Gree, Randall Park, Mitchell Carverus, Rob Arke, Sean Calvier, Goran Kostick, Benjamin Byron Davis, Ryan Steele, and Mitchell Pfeiffer synopsis. As Scott Lang balance being both a superhero and a father, Hope Van Dyne and Dr. Hank Pym present an urgent new mission that find the Ant-Man fighting alongside the Wasp to uncover secret from their past. Straight away, I will answer the most important question. Potential viewers likely have coming into Ant-Man and the Wasp hot of the all-timer shocking ending to Avengers. Yes, Mitchell Peña's Lois is still a hilarious motormouth deserving of his own franchise. Oh yeah, also Ant-Man and the Wasp get to take part in more playful, imaginative action sequence involving shrinkage and oversized growing in another overall comedic approach courtesy of returning director Peyton Reed. The decision from Marvel Cinematic Universe overload Kevin Feige to slot Ant-Man and the Wasp right after some devast- devastating events that the majority of movie viewers still have not recovered from allows for a nice light-hearted breathe while we collectively prepare while we collectively prepare for the inevitable continuing bleakness that awaits. This is not the first time Ant Man has had a tough act to follow, and judging from this sequel, it won't be the last, as the successful levity is welcome. Things begins with a cold open reminding audience of the tragic fate of Janet, the original West Mitchell Pfeiffer, forever trapped in a subatomic quantum realm at the expense of some good old-fashioned superheroic self-sacrifice. Normally, such as expository flashback segment would feel out of place and unnecessary, but we are so deep into this universe that the refresher is actually decision worth appreciating. An emotional through line is established, all while cluing us in as to the plot of the next adventure. Scott Lang, Aunt Man, Paul Rudd, as usual, charming and on point with the delivery of his joke and banter, found a way to return from the mysterious alternate plane of existence, meaning that there is new knowledge on how to future explore the realm with the possibility of bringing back genetic disinformation exists inside the mind of Scott, causing him to experience hallucination of Janet past, right down to a specific memory with her young daughter Hope, once again played by Evangeline Lilly as an adult who I am ecstatic to report is granted a good amount of ass kicking to dish out, prompting him to attempt reconnecting with her and her father Hank. It is revealed that the parties have had a falling out following the events of Captain America Civil War. The creator of all this technology, and once again played by Mitchell Douglas, complete with another startling, real, de aged flashback segment, naturally delicate him and bring him into some scientific quantum experimentation, which is very risky considering Scott only has a few days left to serve on his house arrest sentencing, aside from featuring more whimsical combat where everything from salt shaker to pez dispenser become enlarged weapons capable of knocking fuse out, alongside a highly inventive car chase playing off the big and small dynamic Ant-Man and the Wasp also turn the laboratory into a portable building that bears more narrative urgency and importance that one might assume initially. With that said, some of the film's most exciting moments come from various characters snatching the laboratory and using it for their own personal gain, while others try to track it back down. It's like a game of hot potato with dangerous science equipments that everyone from black market dealers Walton Goggins in a rather empty generic villain role, only left with his endearing southern drawl to evoke a sense of personality and a mysterious woman that can phase through dimensions named Ghost. Hannah Johan came seek out on that note. While it need to be mentioned that Hannah Johan came does a serviceable job in portraying both physical and emotional pain suffering from a hologram like condition she obviously didn't desire. The film doesn't do a very good job at making us necessarily care the issue, and it's one fair common with entires in the MCU is that so many new characters are being introduced and built on, including an old associate of Hank played by Lorenz Fishburne's, not to mention side stories with other returning sporting players deserving of screen time that it become difficult to get invested into one particular area written by the large amount of contributors for a screenplay. Paul Rudd himself also helps out again, and it definitely shows as the brand of comedy is distinctly the flavor. He is no far funnier than the first film this time around. Ant-Man and the Wasp take a broad approach to the narrative that doesn't yield much of any dramatic resonance. Bobby Cannavale as Jim Paxton. Bobby Cannavale, born on May 3, 1970, in Union City, New Jersey, is an Emmy Award winning actor whose stage and screen credits are among the most varied and impressive in contemporary American performance. He won the Emmy for Outstanding Guest Actor in a Drama Series for his work on Will and Grace, and has been acclaimed for roles in Nurse Jackie, Boardwalk Empire, and The Station Agent. He has also appeared on Broadway in films including The Station Agent 2003, Blue Jasmine 2013, and Ant-Man 2015. Paul Rudd reportedly called Cannavale personally to pursue him to join the first Ant-Man, and Cannavale reprises his role as Jim Paxton in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Paxton is a police officer who was Maggie's second husband and Cassie's stepfather, a figure who began the first film as something of an obstacles and potential antagonist, but who proves to be a decent man, genuinely invested in his blended family. In this sequel, Paxton's role is smaller, but his presence underlines the film's commitment to Scott's domestic world as something real and worth protecting. Judy Greer as Magic. Judy Greer, born on July 20, 1975, in Detroit, Mich- Michigan, is a prolific actress with a career spanning more than 2 decades of film and television. She is perhaps most recognizable from Arrested Development, the Halloween reboot series, and numerous supporting films roles, and was confirmed to be reprising her role as Magi, Scott Lang's former wife, the week after San Diego Comics Con 2017. Magi is a character whose relationship with Scott exists in complex, evolved space. They are divorced. She was remarried to Paxton, and yet there is no animosity between them. Their shared priority is Kisses, and the film depicts co-parenting that is functional and even warm. Greer plays Magi with matter of fact intelligence, a woman who has moved on but who genuinely wants Scott to do well, particularly for their daughter's sake. Randall Park as a Jimmy Woo. Randall Park, born on March 23, 1974, in Los Angeles, California, is a Korean American actor and comedian whose profile has risen significantly in recent years. Before Ant-Man and the Wasp, he was known for his long-running role as Lois Hung in the ABC sitcom Fresh Off the Boat and for playing Kim Jong-un in the interview 2014. He was since become a beloved part of the MCU, with his Jimmy Who character developed further in the Disney Plus series WandaVision 2021. In Ant-Man and the Wasp, Jimmy, who is an FBI agent assigned as Scott Lang's parole officer, a man who wants rather pitiably to catch Scott doing something wrong. O is not malicious. He is earnest and faintly lonely, genuinely trying to do his job with the tools available to him. And those tools consistently fail to match the Scott ingenuity. Park plays who with deadpan sweetness and his card tricks, a running gag about his desire to learn close up magic became one of the film's most charming and memorable recurring elements. The role was confirmed at San Diego Comic Con 2017. Abby Reader Fortson as Kesai Lang, born on April 2008, bring genuine heart and scene-stealing charisma to the role of Kesai Lang's co-daughters, who adores her father's superhero identity and wants more than anything to be his partner. Fortson, who has honored with CinemaCon's Rising Stars Award, previously appeared in Ant-Man 2015 and would go on to be replaced by Catherine Newton in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania 2023, where an older Kasai puts on a pime suit for her own. In Ant-Man and the Wasp, Kasai is Scott's encore, the person he is most afraid of disappointing, the one whose belief in him is unconditional. Her senses with Paul Rudd have a genuine sweetness, a father and daughter who deeply enjoy each other's company and whose bond is tested not by conflict but by circumstances. Fortson play Keshai with a precocious uneaten- uneatness that never tips into precociousness. She feels like a real kid who just happened to have a very unusual family situation. David Dastmalchian as Kurt Goretzker. David Dastmalchian, born on September 29, 1980, in Leverance, Kansas, is an actor whose real life history, including overcoming addiction and mental health struggle, has informed a remarkable range of character performances across Hollywood, blockbuster, and independent films. He appeared in The Dark Knight, Knight 2018 as one of the Joker henchmen and has since been featured in Prisoner 2013, Blade Runner 2049-2017 and has gone on to larger roles in Dunes 2021 and Oppenheimer 2023 in Ant-Man and Wasp and the first film Dast Melchian plays Kurt Goretzker, a member of the ex-con security crew a former criminal from Eastern Europe with a very humor and particular skill set. Dast Melchian confirmed Kurt return in April 2017 and the character noted that his last name is Goreschek. Kurt's energy is quieter than Lois, but no less comedic. A deadpan foil whose reaction to the insanity, insanity around him are often the funniest thing in a given sense. Tip T.I. Harris as Davy. Tip T.I. Harris, the Atlanta born rapper and actor known for his Grammy winning music career and his role in the ATL 2006 and the Taker 2010. Return as Davy, and other member of the ex-con security crew TI, confirmed his return as Davy in May 2017. Davy is the crew driver and logistician, and TI's natural confidence and easy charisma make him a natural fit in an ensemble built on personality. Davian Ledva as Azman. British actor Davian Ledma, who gained international attention for playing a physiologically troubled character in the Oscar nominated film Line 2016 and for his BAFTA winning role in the comedy series Doctorist plays Azman, one of the Sunny Burch's associates. Ledwa's background in both series dramas and comedy made him a natural choice for a role that required credibility within Burt's criminal operation while also functioning in the film's broadly comedic register. Goran Kostic as Anti and Antolov. Bosnian actor Goran Kostic, born on November 18, 1971, in Sarajevo and known for his work in The Zookeeper Wife 2017 and Taken 2008, plays Antilov, another member of Burja crew. Caustic Eastern European background and imposing screen presence make Antilovo a credible enforcer type, and he provide physical weight to Burj operation. Mitchell Curviris as Elijah Star. Mitchell Kravis, a Tony Award winning Broadway actor, also known for television roles in Fringer 2008 to 2013, plays Elijah Star's ghost father, whose fatal quantum experiment gave a heart debilitating condition. The role is primarily a flashback appearance, but Kraviers bring dignity and tragedy to a character who is fundamentally responsible for his daughter's suffering without having intended any harm. Ryan Steele as Catherine Starr, British actress Ryan Steele plays Catherine Starr, Ilha's wife and Eva's mother, who is also killed in the quantum accident that defined Ghost origin. Like Carrier, Steele's appear primarily in the film flashback material, but her presence encodes the human tragedy of Eva's backstory. Stan Lee's cameo. No Marvel Cinematic Universe film released during Stan Lee's lifetime was complete without his iconic cameo, and Ant-Man and the Wasp is no exception. Lee, the co-creator of Marvel Comics alongside luminaries like Jack Kirby and Larry Lieber, appears as a man whose car shrinks before his eyes thanks to a stereo blast from the shrinking technology. His reaction delivered with Lee's signature good humor. Well, the 60s were fun, but no, I am playing for it. It is one of his most charming cameos and a moment of pure delight in a film but, full of them. Sporting a minor rules. The film features a range of additional sporting players who round out its world. Benjamin Byron Davis appear as Agent Burley, one of the FBI agent tracking Scott. Rob Archer play Knox, one of the Bud's imposing associates. Sean Keller, credit as Sean Thompson Clear, plays Agent Stoltz. Brian Husky appears as an elementary school teacher in one of the film's most delighted sequences, in which a Gant Ant-Man crashes a school visit. Hailey Lovett, who played a brief uncredited version of Janet Van Dyne in the first Ant-Man, specifically because of her resemblance to Mitchell Pfeiffer, return as young Janet in the flashback sequence of Ant-Man and the Wasp serving as a digital stand-in and reference double for Pfeiffer de-aged scene. Dex Griffin play a young Hank Pym in the same flashback material, while Madeline MC. appear as a young Hope Van Dyne. Langston Fishburne, Lawrence Fishburne's real-life son, plays young Bill Foster in the flashback sequence, a charming piece of real-world casting that mirrors that family themes at the heart of the film. Realine Breton portrays young Ava star Tim Heidecker, the comedian and musician known for Tim and Eric Awesome Show. Great job. Has a brief comedic role as a whaleboat captain, and Julia Vera Andrews appear as a Lois Abo Abioleta, a character whose importance to one of the Lois' signature monologues is enormous. The casting process, philosophy, and approach. The casting philosophy behind Ant-Man and the Wasp is worth examining in its own right. Director Peyton Reed and Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige made several deliberate decisions that shaped the ensemble. For Ghost, the production specifically sought an actress who was not yet a household name to preserve the mysteries of the character. Hannah Johan Kamini fit that brief perfectly recognizable to fan of Killjoys, Game of Thrones and Black Mirror, but not a face so familiar that audience would arrive with fixed expectations. The endorsement from Steven Spielberg gave Reed the final confidence he needed to make the offer. For Janet Van Dyne, the casting of Mitchell Pfeiffer was almost too good to be true, and yet it happened. Evangeline Lilly had publicly wished for Pfeiffer in the role, and when the announcement was made at San Diego Comic Con 2017, the response was immediate and enthusiastic. Pfeiffer casting signaled Marvel's commitment to treating the legacy of Janet Van Dyne with the gravity the character deserved. Lawrence Fishburne's casting came about through a different route. The actor himself approached Marvel expressing his desire to be part of universe. This kind of mutual enthusiasm between performer and studio tends to produce the best result. Fishburne's Bill Boast is one of the film's most satisfying new additions. The returning cast, Red Lilly, Douglas Pinna, Desmelchian, Harris, Greer, Cannavale, and Fordson provided continuity and warmth. One of the Ant-Man franchise's distinct player is its sense of genuine community. These characters feel like people who know each other, who have history, who genuinely care about each other beyond the demand of any given mission. The cast contribution to the MCU's tunnel identity, Ant-Man and the Wasp occupies a particular place in the MCU's tunnel spectrum, where Avengers Infinity War was apocalyptic and emotionally devastating, and where many Phase 3 films dealt with themes of loss, sacrifice, and existential threat. The Ant-Man film have always been smaller scale, warmer, and funnier. This is not a flaw but a deliberate feature, and the cast is the primary vehicle through which that tone is established and maintained. Paul Rudd's natural comedy, Mitchell Douglas' gruff wit, Evangeline Lilly sharp impatience, Mitchell Peña's motor mouth enthusiasm, Walton Georgian's smooth villainy. These are performers who bring not just competence but genuine personality to every frame. The result is a film that feels in the CGI, spectral, and quantum physics expositions fundamentally human. The mid-credit scenes in which Hank, Hope, and Janet are disintegrated by Thanos snaps from Infinity War, leaving the mid-credit scene in which Hank, Hope, and Janet are disintegrated by Thanos' snap from Infinity War, leaving Scott trapped in the quantum realm, land with shocking emotional force, preciously because the audience has spent 2 hours genuinely caring about these characters. It is a masterclass in the relationship between character investment and narrative consequences. Behind the scenes, director and creative team. While this article focuses on casting, it is worth noting that the creative team assembled around the cast played a significant role in allowing these performances to flourish. Director Putin Reed returned from the first film with a deeper understanding of the characters and a clearer sense of the visual language best suited to the franchise's action sequence. The screenplay, co-written by Paul Rudd, Chris MC Kina, Eric Sommer, Andrew Barrer, and Gabriel Ferrier, gave the cast sharp character-specific dialogue. Cinematographer Dante Spintotti brought a warm, slightly golden vision palette to the film that suited its domestic comedy meets superhero adventure tone. Legacy of the casting. The cast assembled for Ant-Man and the Wasp has had a significant afterlife within the MCU. Paul Rudd went on to play a pivotal role in Avengers Endgame 2019, arguably the most important role in the film as Scott Lang's return from the quantum realm because the key that unlocked the entire time travel solution. Evangeline Lilly appeared in Endgame as quantum realm become the key that unlocked the entire time travel solution. Evangeline Lilly appeared in Endgame as well, though briefly due to her character disintegration in the mid-credit scene. Both returned for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania 2023. Randall Park's Jimmy, who became a fan favorite and a scene-stealing presence in the Dis- Disney Plus series, WandaVision 2021. Hannah Johan Cammy's Ghost has been discussed as a character with potential for further development. Mitchell Pfeiffer, Janet Van Den became an increasingly important figure in the MCU's understanding of the quantum realm. Mitchell Pina Lewis remains one of the most beloved comedic characters in the MCU's long history, and David Dastmalchian has gone on to significant larger role in major franchise film. Welton Jorgensen has continued to rise in Hollywood, landing increasingly high-profile projects. Conclusions: The art of ensembles casting. Ant-Man and the Wasp is many ways a film about family, chosen biological and otherwise. Scott Lang desperate attempt to be a good father, Hope Vandian's reunion with a mother she thought lost forever, Hank Pym's redemption through love, Ava Star's orphaned suffering. These themes work because the actor portraying them are genuinely invested in their characters and genuinely capable of bringing those characters to life with and emotional honesty. The casting of Ant-Man and the Wasp demonstrate what the best is ensemble. Films always understand that you need performer whose individual chemistry generates something greater than the sum of its parts. Paul Rudd's and Evangelina Lilly's combative partnership, Rudd and Mitchell Pina's genuine comedic brotherhood, Douglas and Fishburne's decades deep professional rivalry, Pfeiffer and Douglas overwhelmed relieved love, Johan Cammy's etching vulnerability beneath Ghost's terrifying power. Each of these relationships was built on the foundation of thoughtful casting informed by the character's needs, the film's tonal requirements, and an understanding of what these particular performers could bring that no one else could. The result is a film whose emotional impact outlast any individual special effects and whose characters viewers genuinely miss when the credits rolls. From Paul Rudder, irresistible everyman to Mitchell Pfeiffer's luminous decades earned grace, the cast of Ant-Man and the Wasp made the MCU's 20s films one of its most purely enjoyable a superhero movies that remembered above all else to be about people. Ant-Man and the Wasp was directed by Peyton Reed and released by Dis- Disney Studios Motion Pictures on July 6, 2018. It is the 20th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the sequel to Ant-Man 2015. The film grossed over $622 million worldwide and received generally positive reviews, with particular praises directed at its cast, humor, and inventive action sequence. The development of Ant-Man and Wasp 2018 marked a significant evolution in the Marvel Cinematic Universe (MCU), building directly on the foundation laid by 2015 Ant-Man film while introducing new narrative possibilities and emphasizing a balanced heroic partnership. In June 2015, director Peyton Reed, who had helmed the first film publicly, expressed strong interest in returning for a sequel or even a prequel. Reed emphasized his deep affection for the character, particularly nothing is fascinating with Hank Pym and the untapped storytelling potential surrounding the character. The cinematic was echoed by Mitchell Douglas, the actor portraying Hank Pym, who, although not yet contractually obligate for further appearance, indicate openness to aspiring the role, and even suggested casting his real life wife, Catherine Zeta Jones, as Janet Van Dyne. Evangeline Lilly, who played Hope Van Dyne, the daughter of Pym and the Van Dyne, advocated for Mitchell Pfeiffer in the Janet Van Dyne role, adding a layer of personal enthusiasm from the cast that would later influence casting decisions. Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige confirmed the studio's enthusiasm, revealing a super cool idea for the sequel and trying its potential to audience demand. Reed discussed the possibility of a standalone adventure focused on Hank Pym as Ant-Man, potentially incorporating deleted sequences from the original Ant-Man film, such as opening feature Jody Molla. Film journalist Eric Eisenberg speculated that such material could revive the Marvel one shoot format, highlighted the creative flexibility. Reed showed spotting cast member like David Desmalchian also voiced interest in returning, signaling early movement for ensemble continuity. By October 2015, Marvel officially greenlit the sequel, titling it Ant-Man and the Wasp, with a targeted US release date of July 6, 2018. Reed entered negotiation to direct, and by November, his return was confirmed alongside Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly, reprising their role as Scott Lang, Ant-Man, and Hope Van Dyne Wasp. Reed's decision to direct a sequel was notable. He had previously declined similar offer due to lack of interest, but found his project compelling because it allowed him to build from the ground up. Having joined the first Ant-Man late after Edgar Writer's departure, Reed was eager to explore setups he had established previously. He began outlining the story, aiming for something weird, unique, and different. Know that origin were covered. The inclusion of the wasp in the title was described by Reed as organic reference. Hope iconic line from the first film, it's about damn time, as both a character specific movement and a broader commentary on female representations in superhero cinema. Reed advocated for equal publicity and merchandise for the Wasp, underscoring his commitment to a fully realized female hero. He briefly considered the alternate title Wasp and the Ant-Man, but opted against it align with the comic book fan expectations. Adam McKay, a writer on the first film, expressed interest in returning, and Douglas confirmed ongoing talks in early December 2015. Reed outlined plans to retain the his film tone of the original while shifting to an entirely different genre template. He envisioned additional flashback, deeper exploration of Pym's comic book identities and psychology, and the romantic heroic partnership between Ant-Man and Wasp, a dynamic unique in the MCU. At the time, pre-production was slated for October 2016, with filming eyed for early 2017. Writer Gabriel Ferreri and Andrew Barrier, along with Rudd, began scripting in January 2016. MCK remained involved in some capacity. By April 2016, the writing team had immersed itself in brainstorming, promising unprecedented elements. Fee stressed fidelity to the first film's unique qualities while teasing the Giant Man form introduced in Captain America Civil War 2016. Reed contributed extensively to script development but did not receive writing credits. In June 2016, Reed drew comic inspiration from early Avengers runs through modern Nike Spencer stories, prioritizing iconic visuals over s- strict plot adherence. He confirmed a strong likelihood over strict plot adherence. He confirmed a strong likelihood of Mitchell, Pina, Lois Tipti, Harris Tavy, and Dest Melchian Corrit returning 80 San Diego Comic Con 2016. Fiend noted ongoing script work with Reed and Rudd, shifting filming on June 2017. Rudd described the treatment as preliminary but promising. By July 2016, Pina return was official and Atlanta, Georgia was announced as a primary filming location. An initial script was completely by early October 2016 and awaited Marvel approval. Early draft included a Captain America cameo in Lois' flashback sequence recapping Civil War events, but it was ultimately cut to avoid redundancy. As the airport battle was already referenced frequently, the choice streamlined the narrative and maintained focus core quarter while preserving the film's lighter tone. The pre-production phase reflecting Reed's protective affection for the character and Marvel's strategic positioning of the film as a palette cleaner within the larger MCU Phase 3. Extension brainstorming session emphasized character-driven humor, quantum realm exploration, and gender-balanced heroism, setting the stage for a production that would blend intimate character movements with ambitious visual effects. Development discussions also touched on the film potential to expand the MCU multiverse through quantum realm assess, a concept that would resonate in future entire the collaborative writing process involving multiple contributors ensure the script balanced comedy, action, and emotional depth with Reed's hands-on involvement, granting tonal consistency from the first film. The groundwork proved crucial as the project moved into principal photography, allowing for efficient adaptation to on-set discoveries and reshoots, expanded the elaboration and development over the course of 18 months from initial interest to script approval. The team navigated creative challenges inherent to sequel making in a shared universe. Redecision to prioritize weird, unique, and different storytelling prevented the film from feeling like a more retreat, instead positioning Ant-Man and the Wasp as a bridge between the grounded heist element of the first movie and cosmic stake of Avengers Infinity War. The emphasis on the Ant-Man Wasp partnership introduced a fresh dynamic, equal part romance and teamwork that contrasted with solo hero arcs elsewhere in the MCU. Casting discussions, particularly for Janet Van Dyne, were guided by both actor recommendation and Reed's definite ideas, ensuring the character would feel dimensional rather than one note. A Reed had critiqued earlier comic portrayals, pre-production, logistics, including location, scouting in Atlanta and Francisco, were finalized in script iterations that refined subplots like the quantum tunnel and ghost layer. These early choices not only optimized budget allocation but also fostered a collaboration environment where cast and crew could experiment with visual gags and macro scale action, laying the foundation for the film inventive set pieces. The removal of the Captain America cameo exemplified Marvel's editorial's discipline, prioritizing narrative economy and audience recall over fan service moments. Overall development and pre-production transformed initial enthusiasm into a cohesive blueprint that honored the source material while carving a distinct space for Ant and the Wasp in the MCU timeline. Filming principal photography for Ant-Man and the Wasp commenced on August 1, 2017 at Pinewood Atlanta Studio in Fayette County, Georgia, under the working title Cherry Blue. Dante Sponito served as director of photography, utilizing Arri Alexa 65 cameras for high resolution capture. High resolution capture with select sequence implying a Frazier lens to achieve unique perspectives suited to the film size shifting machine. At the outset, Marvel announced the return of Bobby Cannavale and Abby Rudyard Fortson as Paxton and Cassie Lang, respectively. Peyton Reed, returning from the first installment, assembled a cast that balanced star power, fresh talent, and returning favorite to bring one of the Marvel most charming and character-driven sequels to life. The film follows Scott Lang, Paul Rudd, a former thief turned superhero juggling the demand of house arrest with an urgent new mission. Teaming up with Hope Van Dyne, Evangeline Lilly, and her father, Dr. Hank Pym Mitchell Douglas, to rescue Janet Van Dyne Mitchell Pfeiffer from the subatomic dimensions known as the quantum realm, all while contending with the mysterious phasing antagonist known as Ghost Hannah Johan Kamin and a black market dealer named Sonny Birch Walton Jones. The casting process was carefully curated, with each role serving the film dual mandate of delivering superhero spectaculate and intimate human comedy. These articles take a thorough look at the entire principal cast, their backgrounds, their character, the casting decisions behind each role, and the contribution they made to one of the MCU's most warmly receiving sequels. Paul as Scott Lang, Ant-Man, if there is one person who can be said to be the heart and comedic soul of Ant-Man and the Wasp, it is Paul Rudd, born on April 6, 1969, in Passaic, New Jersey, to British Jewish parents. Rudd grew up in Overland Park, Kansas, and developed an early passion for performance. He studied theater at the University of Kansas, trained at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in Los Angeles, and supplemented that with a 3 month intensive workshop at the British Drama Academy at Oxford. His professional career begins in the early 90s with television work, most notably a recurring role in the family drama Sisters. His film debut came with the 1995 cult classic Clueless, directed by Emmy Heckerling, where he played Josh, the laid back stepbrother, who served as the moral compass of the story. That role immediately demonstrated Rudd's gift for likable, naturalistic charm. He then appeared in Halloween, The Curse of Mitchell Meyer, and Baz Luhrmann's Bold Romeo plus Juliet before carving out a niche in ensembles comedy films. Through the 2000s, the Rudd became one of the Hollywood most reliable comedic presence, thanks in large part to a series of collaboration with director and producer Judd Apatow. Films like The 14-Year-Old Virgin 2005, Knocked Up 2007, and This Is 40's 2012 placed him alongside comedy royalty. He co-wrote and started in Role Models 2018, played a lovable stoner in I Love You Man 2009, and cemented his television legacy playing Mike Hannigan and NBC's friend from 2002 to 2004. Rudd's path to becoming Ant-Man was not entirely straightforward. When director Edgar Wright was still attached to the project, he was cast as Scott Lang on December 19, 2013. After writer's departure and Peyton Reed's arrival, the casting held firm, crucial decision that shaped the entire identity. Ant-Man franchise. Ant-Man franchise. Rudd brought Scott Lang to life as a deeply relatable everyman, a former system engineer turned well-intentioned thief whose greatest motivation is being a good father to his daughter Cassis. In Ant-Man and the Wasp, the character of Scott Lang is even more fully realized, still under house arrest following the events of Captain America. Civil War. Scott is a man trying to walk the line between his obligation as a father and his identity as a superhero. Rudd described the appeal of playing Scott in Ant-Man and the Wasp. The character of Scott Lang is even more fully realized, still under house arrest following the events of Captain America Civil War. Scott is a man trying to walk the line between his obligations as a father and his identity as a superhero. Rudd described the appeal of playing Scott as rooted in the character essential human vulnerability, a man who, unlike Tony Stark, Arthur, is genuinely insecure of himself, who feels out of his depth but commits wholeheartedly anyway. What makes Rudd performance exceptional? Exceptional is the way he played comedy and sincerity, simultaneously without one undermining the other. His physical comedy during the scene where the shrink to the size of a child operating in a classroom full of kinder gardeners grunters running through the world at ant scale is genuinely hilarious. But so are his conversation with his ex-con security crew, his attempt to maintain domestic normalcy while building a cardboard X-wing, and his interaction with a giant aunt that stand in for him during house arrest. Rudd co-wrote the screenplay for Ant-Man and the Wasp alongside Andrew Barrer and Gabriel Ferrari, lending the film a personal voice that clearly reflected his comedic sensibilities. His ability to generate chemistry with virtually every actor in the ensemble. Mitchell Douglas, Evangeline Lilly Mitchell Pina, even the young Abby Redder Fordson is one of the film defining strengths. Evangeline Lilly as Hope Van Dyne, the Wasp, if Ant-Man and the Wasp mark a milestone in the MCU. It is largely because of Evangeline Lilly character. Hope Van Dyne became the first female superhero to share title billing in a Marvel Studios film. This was no token gesture. Hope is a formidable, fully realized character, and Lily performance ensure she is more than just a co-lead in name. Born in August 3, 1979, the Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta, Canada, Nicole Evangeline Lilly was discovered on the streets of Kelowna, British Columbia by the Ford Modeling Agency. She signed with Ford not out of career ambition but to fund her education at the University of British Columbia. Before her television breakthrough, she worked as a flight attendant, a waitress, and performed oil changes on large vehicles. A range of experience that gave her a grounded, unpretentious personality that would later translate naturally into her own screen presence. Lily major breakthrough came with the ABC drama series Lost 2004 to 2010, in which she played Cat Austen, a fugitive with a complicated moral history who become one of the plane crash survivors navigating a mysterious island. The role earned her six nominations for the Saturn Award for Best Actress on Television and Golden Globe nomination. After Lost After Lost concluded, Lily demonstrated her range in the Catherine Bigelow war drama The Hurt Locker 2018 and the Hugh Jackman sport film Real Steel 2011. She then joined the Patty Jackson epics The Hobbit trilogy as Tyrell, an original character Amirkod Elif warrior in the Desolation of Smoke 2013 and the Battle of the Five Armies 2014. Her entry into the MCU came with 2015's Ant-Man, where she played Hope Van Dyne, the estranged daughter of Hank Pym, and the missing Janet Van Dyne. Lily described her character as capable, strong, and kick ass, nothing that Hope's difficult upbringing under a secretive, emotionally withholding father had produced a woman of formidable competence but deep personal wound. In a mid credit scene of that film, Hank Pym present Hope with a new Wasp suit, the moment fans had been waiting for, and the promise that she would suit up in the sequel. Ant-Man and the Wasp deliver on that promise magnificently. Hope is the more proficient fighter of the two title heroes, and the film never shies away from showing it. She was been training for years. Her web suit, designed by her parents, allows her not only to shrink but to fly on practical wings, expanded to digital wings to full flight and fire energy blasters. Lily's action choreography is fluid and dynamic, and the film's fight sequence, particularly a kinetic early sequence in a dinner showcase, Hope Wasp a genuinely superior combatant. What Lily also brings to the film is emotional depth in Hope's evolving relationship with her parents, particularly the mission to rescue her mother Janet from the quantum realm. Hope has long believed her mother died in sacrifice, confronting the possibility that she might still be alive and that her father withheld the truth about what happened. Is a journey Lily navigates with real feelings. Her chemistry with Ballard is warm and funny. The two characters have a romantic relationship in this film that is grounded in mutual respect and shared exasperations. Their banter inconsistently the film's funniest material. Lily was also a part of a significant cultural conversation. The film sparked finally a superhero movie where the woman is not the sporting act. Hope does not stand back while Aunt Man save the day. She is equal, often superior, and the film title reflect that. Mitchell Douglas as Dr. Hank Pym. Mitchell Douglas, born as September 25, 1944, in New Brunswick, New Jersey, is one of the Hollywood's most celebrated and enduring dealing men, an Academy Award winning actor and producer whose career spans 6 decades and ranges from action thrillers to biopics to dark dramas. He won the Oscar for Best Actor for Wall Street 1987 and the Oscar for Best Picture as a producer of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest 1975. His other iconic credits include Fatal Attraction 1987, Basic Instincts 1992, The Game 1997, and Behind the Candelabra Candelabra 2018, for which he won an Emmy, Golden Globe, and SAG award, bringing such a distinguished figure into the MCU as the origin Ant-Man, a brilliant prickly scientist whose heroic years are behind him, was a masterstroke of casting. In the first Ant-Man, Douglas played Hank Pym as a man of enormous ego and enormous guilt. Someone who had fought hard to keep his shrinking technology from being weaponized and who, in the process, had sacrificed his marriage and his relationship with his daughter. In Ant Man and the Wasp, Pym is slightly more vulnerable, driven by the desperate hope that his wife Janet might still be alive in the quantum realm. Douglas confirmed his return to the role in February 2017, and his performance in the sequel adds new layers in Hank Pym. His rivalry with Dr. Bill Foster Lawrence Fishburne provided some of the film's sharpest comedy, two egging, brilliant, deeply competitive men snipping at each other with decades of professional resentment behind every joke. Director Peyton Reed described their dynamic as similar to that of Stevie Jobs and Bill Gates, which give a sense of the high-stake intellectual ego at play. Douglas also appeared in the remarkable de-age sequence set in 1987, in which digital visual effects restore his younger face. The film technical team used state of the art anti-aging technology to portray the 1987 flashback. The testament to Douglas' iconic appearance that the technology could credibly reconstitute a younger version of him. Hank Pym is not always easy to like. He is arrogant, impatient, and often dismissive, but Douglas plays him with just enough wounded humanity that the audience always understand why he is the way he is. The reunion with Janet Pfister in the film's climax is one of the most genuinely moving scenes, and Douglas meets Pfister grasps with his own quite overwhelmed joy. Evangeline Lilly and the Mitchell Douglas, the Pym family dynamic. The father daughter relationship between Hope and Hank Pym, played by Lilly and Douglas, is one of the most interesting character dynamic in the film. Both performances benefits from the groundwork laid in the first film, where the audience both performances benefits from the groundwork laid in the first film, where the audience understood how much distance exists between them and how much love underlies that distances. In Ant-Man and the Wasp, the shared mission of rescuing Janet allows them to function as true partners for the first time, and both actors bring convincing mix of old tension and new warmth to their senses. Mitchell Pfeiffer as Janet Van Dyne, the original Wasp. The casting of Mitchell Pfeiffer as Janet Van Dyne, the original Wasp who disappeared into the quantum realm in 1987 while disabling a Soviet nuclear missile, was announced at San Diego Comic Con 2017 to enormous fan enthusiasm, and the enthusiasm was entirely warranted. Mitchell Pfeiffer, born on April 29, 1958 in Santa Ana, California, is one of the most acclaimed actresses of her generation. Her career is distinguished by performances of extraordinary range and intensity. She earned Academy Award nomination for Dangerous Liaisons 1988, The Fabulous Baker Boys 1989, and Love Field 1992. She is also celebrated for her unforgettable turns as Catwoman in Batman Returns 1992, Elvira Hancock in Sacrifice 1983, and Madame D. Torval in Dangerous Liaison. In later years, she demonstrated that she had not lost a fraction of her power, with roles in Murder on the Orient Express 2070s and Mother 2080s. Interestingly, Evangelina Lilly herself had publicly expressed the wish to see Pfeiffer cast as Janet Van Dyne. The character is the Marvel Comics is the founding Avenger, one of the most important figure in the Marvel universe, and casting Pfeiffer underlining the significance of the character legacy. The technical challenges of portraying Janet involved substantial digital de-aging for the 1987 flashback sequences. With Haley Lovett serving as reference double, Lovett had previously played the character briefly in the first film, especially because, as director Peyton Reed noted, she had sucker-like Mitchell Pfeiffer eyes. For the present day sequence, Pfeiffer portrays Janet as a woman who has survived 30 years alone in a subatomic wilderness, emerging not damaged but transformed. She has evolved, absorbing quantum energy and developing extraordinary power. Pfeiffer's performance in the present day scenes is one of the quite overwhelming grace. A woman who has spent 30 years in isolation, holding herself together through sheer will, now confronted with her husband and daughter after a lifetime of absence. He reunions with Mitchell Douglas. Hank Pym is deeply felt, and the brief scene in which she uses her quantum power to temporarily stabilize ghost condition reveals a character with compassion and inner resources. Significant achievement. Beferier entered the film late in the story with limited screen time and made Janet Van Devon feel fully real and significant despite that constraint. Lawrence Fishburne as Dr. Bill Foster. Goliath, the casting of Lawrence Fishburne as Dr. Bill Foster was another San Diego Comic Con 2017 announcements that generated significant excitement. Fishburne, born on July 30, 1961, August, Georgia, is one of American cinema's most imposing and versatile presence. His early career included Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse, now 1979, in which he appeared at age 14 despite claiming to be 16. He has since appeared in a remarkable range of iconic films. Boyne's The Hood 1991, What's Love Got to Do with It 1993, The Matrix trilogy in 1999-2003, Mystic River 2003, Man of Steel 2013, and Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice 2016, in the latter two as Perry White for DC. The casting Fishburne, who had already appeared in DC properties as a Marvel character, was noteworthy. Fishburne himself confirmed that he had approached Marvel about joining the MCU, pitching a few ideas for which character he might play before Marvel offered him the role of Bill Foster. He openly described himself as a Marvel Comics guy, expressing a long held desire to be a part of franchise in the comics. Bill Foster is the superhero known as Golith, a man who under Hank Pym mentorship learned to grow to enorm- enormous size. The film references this history. Foster described his rivalry with Pym and their shared work on Project Golith. Director Reed described the Foster Pym dynamic as kind of intellectual and professional rivalry, analogous to that of Stevie Jobs, Bill Gates, two brilliant men whose competition and mutual disdain is inseparable from a guarding, deeply buried respect. Fishburne play Foster as a man with his own moral compass, someone who disagrees with Pym methods and choices and has chosen to help Avastar Ghost in secret because he believes it is the right thing to do, even if his methods are not strictly legal. Fishburne brings a commanding authority to the rule that makes every line feel considered and weighty. There is also a running thread of dry humor in this senses with Douglas that makes their rivalry enormously enjoyable to watch. Crucially, Langston Fishburne Lawrence's real-life son appear in the film as young Bill Foster in the flashback sequences. A charming piece of casting that underlines the franchise appreciation for family connection, both fictional and real. Hannah Johan came in as Eva Starr's host of all the new cast addition to Ant-Man and the Wasp. Perhaps none is more fascinating than Hannah Johan came in as Ava Starr, known in the film and comics as Ghost. Johan Camin, a British actress born in 1989, brought the character to life with the nuance and physical precision that elevated her above the typical MCU antagonist. Johan Kamin's television work had already established her as a performer of considerable range. She played F. Zandor in Steven Spielberg Ready Player One 2018 Dutch in the sci-fi series Kilojoy's Ornilla. Johan Kamin's television work had already established her as a performer of considerable range. She played F. Zandor in Steven Spielberg's Ready Players One 2018 Dutch in the sci-fi series Kilojoy's Ornilla in HBO's Game of Thrones and various characters in the science fiction anthology Black Mirror. It was her Ready Player One performances that put her in front of the Ant-Man and the Wasp team. Director Peyton Reed received a personal endorsement letter from Steven Spielberg praising her work. Producer Stephen Brossard noted that the production specifically wanted a lesser known actress for the role of Ghost to preserve the character mystery. When Johan Kamen auditioned, the team was struck by her ability to combine genuine physical menace, essential for a character who can phase in and out of solid matter, with deeply vulnerability. Ghost power are not an asset but an application. Her molecular instability causes her constant pain, and the character's entire arc is driven by the desperate need to be cured. This is the key distinction that makes Ghost one of the more thoughtful antagonists in the MCU. She is not malevolent for its own sake. She is a woman in agony, willing to do whatever it takes to survive and her suffering. As a child, she witnessed the death of her parents in a quantum physics accident, an accident caused by her father's work, and the explosion left her with her debilitating condition. She was subsequently taken in and trained by SHIELD as an operative, exploited for her phasing ability, and left without a cure. Reed described ghost power as potentially dangerous and lethal, but they are an affliction for her more than they are a power. And Johan Kamin captured his perfectly. Her fight scenes are extraordinary. The way she phases in and out of wall floors and opponents, her flickering between solid and incorporeal, is one of the film's most visually stunning innovation. But it is the quieter scene, Ghost sitting in pain, Ghost confronting Hope and Scott with a rawness that transcends villainy, that make the performance memorable. Rhiannon Breton portrays the younger version of a star in the film flashback sequence. Michelle Pina as Lois. If Paul Rudd is the heart of the Ant-Man franchise, Michelle Pina as Lois is its unstoppable comedic engine. Pina, born on January 13, 1976 in Chicago, Illinois, is an actor whose reign extends from Oscar-nominated dramatic film Crash 2004, Cesar Chavez 2014 to blockbuster franchise, but his work as Lois in the Ant-Man series may represent his most purely joyful contribution to popular cinema. Lois is a Scott Lang best friend, former cellmate, and the co-founder of Excon Security Consultants, a security firm staffed by ex-convicts hoping for a second chance. He is relentlessly optimistic, irredeemably verbose, and constitutionally incapable of telling a story without elaborating it to a degree that is potentially mending and charming. His Lois monologues, in which he recounts second-hand information in a rambling chain of connection, while the film cuts to visual representations of the people he is describing, all voiced by Pinna, are among the most inventive recurring bits in the MCU. In Ant-Man and the Wasp, Lois and the X-Con crew are the running their security business when the events of the film pull them back into Scott's superhero orbit. The film gives Pinna even more room to run with a character verbal extra vengeance, including a scene in which Lois is injected with a truth serum that turns his already elaborated storytelling into something even more chaotic and irresistible. Pinna, physical comedy, and impeccable timing makes Lois feel like a genuine person rather than a comic relief archetype. He cares deeply about Scott and is loyal to a fault. The warmth beneath the comedy is what makes the character enduring across multiple films. Walton Jurgens as Sonny Birch. Walton Jurgens, born on November 10, 1971, in the Birmingham, Alabama, is one of the American television and film most compelling character actors. He is perhaps best known for his role as Boyd Crowder in the FX series Justified, a performance so captivating that the character was kept alive specifically because of Georgian's magnetic screen presence. He has also been acclaimed for his work as Shani Vendrell in The Shield and has appeared in Quentin Tarantino, Django Unchained 2012 and The Hateful Eight 2015, as well as the film Tomb Raider 2018 and Invincible animated series. In Ant-Man and the Wasp, Jones plays Sonny Burch, a black market dealer in advanced technology who is trying to acquire Hank Pym's miniaturized laboratory for a mysterious buyer. Bun is the film's most conventional antagonist, a mercenary driven by profit, but Trojans bring him enormous personality. His performance is full of small, delightful choices, a certain southern gentleman politeness that barely conceals Minas, a kind of philosophical resignation about the morally dubious world he inhabits. The casting of Georgians was confirmed at San Diego Comic Con 2017, along with his role as Sonny Burch. While Burch is not the film's primary villain, that role falls to Ghost. Georgians ensure that he is never merely functional. Even in a relatively secondary role, his charisma ensures that every scene featuring Sonny Burch is worth watching.